We have this idea that we have to pick one medium and stick with it forever and become an expert in order to be taken seriously as a creative person. But there is something that's inherently flawed to this idea because, at least in my opinion, I think that creativity is something that is sort of an intrinsic quality of our humanity. When we perceive creativity as something that is rigid and intended to keep us trapped inside of a singular box, we're missing the point entirely. The thing about creativity is that it will find a way to seep into our lives whether we choose to acknowledge it or not. A good way of kind of framing this is that our creativity has a hunger, and we can choose to try and starve it with this narrative of saying, hey, I'm not creative, so I couldn't possibly make X, Y, or Z. I'm not even gonna try. Or we can choose to feed the creativity by just simply trying new things and creating stuff. I have spent the last several years hand drawing wood panels, and I love working with micron pens on wood. I used to like working just on paper, but there was something about the connection with a wood panel that made me feel more connected to just like the earth in some sort of weird sense. So I really sort of found that my art was taking off more as I was doing these panels. It sort of became the thing that I was expected to create. A few years ago, I found myself feeling less compelled to create these hand-drawn panels. It was really hard for me to process because I felt like I had attached my creative identity to this very specific way of creating, this very specific expression. And because I had found success doing it, the idea of putting it aside or taking a break from it felt like some sort of like self-betrayal. I think I plateaued with these panels. I keep talking about the panels because they're like so important to me. There are just endless things that I am interested in and drawn to that I have allowed myself to explore that perhaps I wouldn't have allowed myself to if I were still so engrossed in this idea of existing solely as someone who draws with pen on wood panels. I think another big misconception about creativity is that when we produce work or we create new things, they have to be immaculate or they have to be these extravagant creations that have taken hours and so much energy. And having this ideal in mind that we always need to be exceptional in order to be creative, it imposes a limitation on us that doesn't allow us the opportunity to actually explore and play. And exploration and play are directly linked to our ability to create. Very small acts of creativity still count. And maybe it's something as simple as like making a really beautiful matcha or putting together an outfit that you've never worn before. You put some items that you have together that you usually don't wear together. Maybe it's rearranging the furniture in your home. I think often we don't perceive those sorts of acts as creativity because they are perhaps more mundane than painting a beautiful portrait and sharing it online and getting thousands of likes for it. But the important piece here is that even if you're only a little bit creative, that creativity is still alive and it is still coming through you. It is still finding something to feed on in your life. And I think leaning into those things, no matter how small they are, will only expand your connection to your creativity. The decisions that you make reflect your creativity. If you feel drawn to certain colors, or you feel drawn to certain aesthetic choices, or you feel drawn to certain locations, I think that those things are all tied directly to our creativity. So to simply say, I'm not creative because I can't paint, is such an absurd thing. To me, I see a society that doesn't value creativity to such the extent that it doesn't know how to define or identify creativity, which is kind of interesting because we're all walking around saying, I'm not creative, without understanding that creativity is inherent to our humanness. To be human is to create. Our society tends to view the only valuable or important things as the most profitable things. And so my ability to sit at my desk for 8 hours a day and contribute some sort of shareholder value is seen as more important and more valuable than my ability to contribute to the world creatively. And so, of course, we're not incentivized to create and play because it's not profitable in the same way that, I don't know, like plugging numbers into a spreadsheet is. Our society has unfortunately berated us with this idea that our creativity is silly or it's secondary to more important things. But our creativity is literally, like, in my opinion, it is literally the most important part of being a human. In one of my last videos, I talked a little bit about this idea of inputs and outputs and how I think we filter ideas and we filter inputs or, things that we receive, stimuli that we receive. We filter it through our unique lens and perceptions and beliefs and things like that. And we sort of spit it back out into the world in a new way based on our understanding. I think that is where our creativity exists. It's not this thing outside of us that one day just disappears or one day just shows up. It's this thing that is always inside of us. It is the thing that filters everything. It filters our choices of what colors we want to wear. It filters the choice of what car we think is cool looking, or what music we are compelled to listen to, or what sorts of restaurants we like to spend time in, like what kinds of environments we find beautiful. I think that those filters that we all have, like that's the creativity. We need to challenge ourselves to continuously stretch. And I think if we pair this with the idea of creativity being hungry, our creativity will find an outlet even if we don't know what that outlet is in the moment, or if we don't recognize that a certain behavior is our creativity begging us to pay attention to it. You are a complex monkey, and you are hanging out here on a rock, and you need to eat a myriad of different foods. There are different food groups. Just like we, on a physical, biological level, require lots of different nutrients to keep on going, I think that our creativity is kind of the same way. So maybe you really, really love illustrating, but you're curious about ceramics. So go take a ceramics class, or, go learn how to produce music, or just collaborate with someone in a new way. I think it is so important that we feed our creativity a healthy diet and we don't shy away from trying new things, because you might find that you are so deeply passionate about something new that can be connected back to the thing you started with. Like for me, my illustrations have slowly been impacting other parts of my creativity, and I'm trying to find a way to converge my analog passions with my digital passions for creative things. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. If there's anything in particular that you'd like me to talk about or you're curious about, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye!